And we are joined now by the Senator from Lafayette and Panola counties, Senator Nicole Akins. Boyd, how are you this morning, Senator?
Good morning. How are you this morning? We're glad it's Friday, I think.
I think everybody can agree with that statement. Let me ask you, are you enjoying spending more time in Jackson than Oxford right now?
Well, I think that's what the people elected me to do. So we're here to get the business of the state done and get some things passed and try to improve things.
Well, and that's always the goal, but it always seems to be a bumpy road to get there, doesn't it?
It is. It has always been called a sausage-making process, and this year has proved no different. But I think we have got some good things here that maybe aren't really talked about, that are very much still alive in the legislative process, and some things that will help Mississippians.
Well, we had our latest big deadline to get things out of committee that has passed, but you said there are still some good things that are floating around. Let's talk about those. Let's air them out and give them some attention here.
Well, we've had some great things go, and I personally, this is just really kind of a fun, exciting thing to happen that was brought to me by a constituent. And it's SB 2260, and it's on its way to the governor's office. And it is called the Blue Envelope Bill. And a young constituent of mine brought this to my attention and asked me to try to go get it passed. And so what it does is, if you are somebody that is on the autism spectrum, you can't, when you get stopped, many of our young people with high-functioning autism are doing great and they're in jobs, but when you get stopped by a police officer, it's a little bit intimidating. And sometimes those officers can read that intimidation the wrong way, and it can kind of make it look like it's they're trying to hide something or something like that. And so what this does is you literally will give them a blue envelope that has your information and all of that, so it eases your stress level if you're somebody on the spectrum, and you can give it to them. And then it helps the law enforcement too. And so I have to thank Commissioner Sean Tyndall for embracing this, and my two transportation commissioners in the House and the Senate, Chuck Younger in the Senate and Steve Massengill in the House. And then on the House side, here's the thing about it is, if you got a good piece of legislation, you always need to have supporters in the opposite chamber. And so Representative Lance Vardner and Representative Josh Hawkins did a great job over there. So we have moved that piece of legislation, and it hopefully is headed to the governor's office where he will sign it. So that's kind of a exciting thing for us. So
well, and that see, this is my favorite kind of legislation, though. It solves a problem directly.
It does. It does. It solves a problem and doesn't cost a lot of money to implement. And, the best ideas are from our constituents. So we're, that's really exciting, and an exciting young lady, Ellie Snyder, who brought that to us. So really pleased to get that passed. So,
well, and that's the other aspect I just want to talk about very quickly. You said it's a young constituent that brought this to you. It is so fantastic to see not only young people getting involved in the process, but getting involved in the process with good ideas. That's what we want to see and encourage, I would think.
Absolutely. So that's why we were thrilled to work on this on both sides of the aisle, and really just kind of get it done. So it's on to the governor, so hopefully he will sign it, and we will celebrate that very soon. We've got some other good stuff out there too. One of the things that this summer, we did a number of task force this summer, and y'all heard us talking about it. We came in here and talked about it, but workforce development, Senator Sparks led a study, and we really were looking at our workforce participation rates and why ours is one of the lowest in the country. And so one of the things that led out of that task force was Senator Sparks has a bill. It's called the One Door Policy, and it's still alive. And anyway, what it does is it really goes back to try to look at how we need to reform some of the things we do with employment security, some of the help that we give. One of the things they saw is that Utah has one of the highest labor force participation rates in the country. And what do they do differently there than we're doing in Mississippi? And so this is a bill, Senate Bill 2290, that would kind of see how that we modernize things and how that we get those helps from workforce development issues, whether it be at the Win Job Center or the Maybe there's some additional services that are needed there, but how do we get people to work? And so we know that we have got to do a better job of that in Mississippi to really raise our economy. And so this is a bill that does this. So I'm hoping that this gets passed in the House and we can go on. So that's one of the other things that's out there. Another piece of legislation that's really exciting to see out there because it's been worked on for a number of years. Senator Scott Delano, we call it the NG 911 bill. It's Senate Bill 2835, and what it does is it's an Emergency Communications Act, and it'll really establishes that next generation of 911 services where you can actually send text, send messages, send pictures, and real-time location tracking to the 911 system. It'll really improve that interoperability between our law enforcement agencies, response agencies, and our citizens in our state. And it's going to help some of the counties and municipalities with the fund. And that's that's kind of a life-changing issue that we can get done and get passed and really help the citizens out there and our law enforcement agencies do a better job.
Well, and it addresses, again, it's solving a problem. In this case, to me, one of the biggest parts of the problem that it's addressing is the fact that we kind of tend to just keep doing things the same old way for decades. The world has advanced and we got people out there with Nokia brick phones trying to conduct business. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Yes, exactly. This is what we got to modernize, and there's a better way to do business and a better way to help our law enforcement, and that's what we want to do. And kind of transitioning to that, we've got another piece of legislation that our law enforcement really has brought to us. It's Senate Bill 2314. And Senator Spock sponsored, and I'm a co-sponsor of that one. And it is to try to get a lot of these products out of our grocery stores that our kids, our convenience stores that they're going into, these hemp products that don't need to be in these convenience stores. And they're not regulated. We don't know what's in them. And our law enforcement are telling us they are very problematic in the communities. And we need to get these out of the convenience stores. So this is another piece of legislation. It is still alive in the House, and we hope to see it passed so that we can clean this stuff up. And, when your law enforcement tells you that these things are problems, you need to listen. And that's what we're doing on this, is really listening to our law enforcement on this. And they all have endorsed and supported it. So hopefully we can get that out.
Well, and it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. If somebody who is 15, let's say, goes into a convenience store, tries to buy a six-pack of beer, they're going to get carded, they're not going to be able to buy it, and then they can turn around and go, okay, fine, just give me a pack of that weed. Really?
Yeah. Look, and you start talking to kids, and they will tell you the craziest stuff that has happened to kids that have gotten these products or whatever. So anyway, we need to get that out, and I think that's exciting to do. We've got there's a lot of good legislation left. One of the things we've got left too is setting up the process of how we're going to spend our opioid settlement funds. That's going to be over $370 million over the next 18 years towards the state of Mississippi. And so what's the process that we're going to do with this? And how are those funds going to be spent over that continuing period of time? So we've got legislation that's still alive that will set that process up so that we can get help out to our communities and throughout the state to really treat this growing epidemic that we have. So that's still alive and good. We also have still alive, both in Senate and House bills right now, is the paid parental leave. And, this is something that we have looked at a number of ways in the committee, that the study committee that I led this summer, looking at women and workforce issues and really looking at maternity leave and all of that. And so what we know is that when you give a female that time off to short period of time off to bond with that baby, what we know is we have healthier mothers and healthier babies. And the studies show that time and time again. And if we're a state that is going to be dedicated to life, like we've said we're going to be, this is part of it. And this is something that we need to get through. And so Representative Felcher Senator England have done great work on this, and they are leading this charge. So I'm really excited to hopefully that we can get something across the finish line on this.
We are up against a hard break. Can you hang on through the break?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. We'll see if Lance can hook you up with an enormous croissant sandwich like he had this morning during the break. And then we'll continue with Senator Nicole Akins Boyd here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi right after this. Welcome back. SuperTalk Mississippi. Mornings on this Friday morning, and in studio, Senator Nicole Akins Boyd, who is also the chairwoman of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee, which I'm pretty sure keeps you kind of busy in addition to everything else you're doing.
Just a little bit, and we've still got some legislation that we are working through there. We have the DEI bill that we're trying to work through. Both the Senate and the House have a version of that. And we are keeping those bills alive so that we can make sure that your education does not mean that there's going to be indoctrination.
Well, let me ask you, have you gotten any feedback on that from, say, how do I put this nicely, opposing viewpoints?
I have gotten a great deal of feedback, but I've also gotten I'll tell you what kind of knows that we're headed in the right direction is the students that reach out. And they say, hey, this is actually an issue, and we appreciate you working on that. And you wouldn't believe the amount of students I've had reach out on that. So those are the people that you really want to listen to. I've also had a number of professors reach out. And living in a college town, but it's not just professors from my town. I've had professors from really all over the state reach out. And they said, hey, keep at it. Keep at the work that y'all are doing in this area because this is something that needs to be addressed. And you see on the federal level, this is being addressed. And we need to kind of get some guidance from the state legislature on kind of what that is as you're seeing this done on the national level. So we're going to keep out that bill, and those bills are still alive, and I look forward to working with Representative Hood on the other side, that's the bill that went through Judd A on their side, and we look forward to working with him on those particular issues. So that is still alive. That's a really good one that we're going to be working on. There's another bill that we're working on. I had the companion bill. Oftentimes you put it in the Senate and you put it in the House, which is something I would like to work on, but we'll talk about that on another show.
That's an entire interview in and of itself.
But it's a bill that one of the things that I was unaware of until we started doing some stuff a couple of years ago and some hearings is that your insurance company, if you are lying in the hospital with cancer and they come in and give you that diagnosis and they say, okay, we're going to start treatment immediately because it's an aggressive form of cancer, we need to start this immediately. Your insurance company can tell the hospital, nope, we're not going to buy that cancer drug from you. We're going to have to send it to you. And so you can delay treatment for a patient anywhere from 7 to, 14 days before they're going to get that drug to you. Also, another thing that's called white bagging when they send it to the hospital itself. But then also, too, they have another process that it's just unfathomable to me is called brown bagging. And what that means is that you can have your grandmother at home in rural Mississippi in July that is getting medicine on her rural route, and you know how that goes sometimes, and then she has to bring that drug in to the infusion center. So can you imagine telling your grandmother that she's got to keep it at the proper temperature, that she's got to do all those things to safely get her drug, and then better yet, can you imagine being the infusion center having to take responsibility for administering a drug that you've had no control whatsoever in how it's going to be, how it was kept, and knowing that it was kept at the proper temperature. So anyway, this is a process. They've outlawed it in Arkansas and Louisiana, and we've still got that bill alive, and hopefully we'll take care of that so that that doesn't happen to people over and over again.
Well, and to me, just knee-jerk reaction here. To me, that situation, that scenario that you described, where they send it to your grandma in rural Mississippi, who knows when it's going to get there or what temperature it's in for the entire trip to her house through the postal system, that would almost release the medical provider of some liability if things go wrong, because you've introduced the element of doubt into the entire process.
Well, and no provider should ever be put in that circumstance. And so we need, and no grandmother should ever have to carry her own medicine that needs to be infused intravenously. So we need to knock out that process. It's really an unconscionable process. So we've got that bill still alive in the Senate, and we have that bill to deal with. The House has passed it through, and we passed it through in the House side, and we'll hopefully we'll take it up and finish that and get that to the governor, because that's one that needs to go there. So we've got there's a number of other bills too that are kind of out there that are kind of, they're not really sexy and exciting, but they're important. One of those is a reorganization of the Department of Tourism. We had 43.7 million visitors last year in the state of Mississippi, and that produced over $11 billion in spending from these visitors. And so that is an economic driver for the state, and we need that as an agency that's going to really focus and dedicate on that economic driving of that.
Got to make sure it's in good shape and pointed in the right direction. Definitely. Senator, I've enjoyed it. You need to come back more often, okay?
Good.
You're in town. You've got free time. You can come see us anytime. Senator Nicole Akins Boyd. It's time for Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News. And after the break, Mandy Gunasekara joins us here on Mornings. Keep it here.